Brought to you by Classics. One dose restores your taste for 50s and 60s classic TV. Classics. And now, here's Mr. TV Classics himself, Steve Beverly.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Steve Beverly's TV Classics. I've had requests for this type of show for a long, long time, and I have to admit I resisted. Because when I was a kid, I was like most males, and I just did not want to admit under any strange, let's see here, I messed it up. Let me do this again here. There we go. Hello again, everyone, and welcome again to Steve Beverly's TV Classics. Now, tonight we have a very special show. It's going to be a theme-oriented show. I've had many requests, particularly from the women in our audience, to do this kind of show. And I resisted, I'll be honest about it, because to be candid with you, when I was a kid, I would have canceled every single one of these shows. I would have put the landscape of daytime television to be nothing but game shows from 10 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon. But television tried to appeal to a broad cross-section of audiences. And going back to the days of radio, the soap opera, as it was originally called, now, of course, with the 4 that are left, they're called daytime dramas. But initially they were called soap operas because they were sponsored by soap companies, soaps that were made initially by Procter & Gamble or American Home Products. And they were the ones who brought you these 15-minute stories that would tug the heartstrings of the women in the audience. But tonight we're going to bring you a show of classic soap episodes that go back to the 1950s and 60s. But I have a very special guest tonight. He is a gentleman from Atlanta, Georgia, and I came across him a few years ago as I was just looking on YouTube to see if there was anything musically interesting in this genre. And I found a guy named Lance Jackson. And I couldn't believe my ears when I suddenly saw him playing themes from classic soap operas, and it was like I was going through a time tunnel and hearing absolutely perfect, note for note, run for run, special sections that were done letter perfect. I mean, they were, and it was like he was the guy who was in the studio doing this all of these years. What a marvelous talent he has, and Lance graciously has agreed to be with us tonight, and you are going to hear him play in between our shows 6 of the all-time classic TV soap opera theme songs. And I think you're going to enjoy each and every one of them. And we're going to visit with Lance about his musical talents and also take you on a journey of a history of soap operas in television as it went back really to the early 1950s, but their history actually to the 1930s on network radio. We're going to begin tonight with one that was the first show that actually took off. There were soap operas before this one, but many of the soaps, in fact, up until 1956, there was not a soap opera that in daytime that was longer than 15 minutes. This is the first one that really began to make a connection with the audience in 1951. It was sponsored by Procter & Gamble, products like Oxidol, and you could go through the whole 9 yards of their products, Tide, whatever it was. This was a company that sold a lot of products to a lot of stay-at-home moms because of their being glued to soap operas. And so we're going to begin with one that was the adventures of Joanne Tate, and the long-suffering woman who went through so many of the difficult and challenging situations in the town of Henderson, not Henderson, Tennessee, just Henderson. You never knew what state these places were in. So here we go. I'm going to take you back to an episode from the 15-minute variety of it. It's going to go back to 1955. And here we go. Search for Tomorrow.
Spick and Span, America's once-over cleaner for linoleum, painted walls, and woodwork. And Cheer, the amazingly different wash day suds for the cleanest, whitest wash possible, present Search for Tomorrow.
Ned, Wilbur spoke. He spoke clearly for the first time.
Yes.
Does that mean you'll be able to cure him? Does that mean that he'll be able to talk like a normal man? He's responding to treatment? Oh, Ned.
All it means so far, Joe, is that the inner tensions that have been inhibiting Wilbur have been lessened. All it means is that the drug is starting to take effect.
But that's good, isn't it?
It's a first step.
Oh, if we only knew what was going on in his mind. Maybe we could help him.
Maybe we can help him anyway, Joe. Wilbur. Wilbur. Wilbur, you said you remember. What is it you were going to tell us you remember?
Wilbur? Wilbur, can you hear us? Can you tell us what it is you remember? It's locked. This door's locked. I'll try another door. This door's locked too. I'll try another. There must be some door that is locked. But which one? Which one? Oh, somebody help me. Please. Is there anyone inside? Is there? Oh, please don't keep me on now. Please. Rose! Rose! Where are you, Rose? Where's nothing? Rose! Don't ask me. Rose, you must keep me locked down. You must. Oh, no. Let me in. Let me in. Let me in. Poor Wilbur. Poor Wilbur. He's having such a hard time.
But he responded. We're on the right track.
Yes. What do you suppose he meant by the locked door?
We'll have to have a lot more facts than we have so far, Joe, before we can even begin to guess what's going on in his mind.
Oh, but I thought you'd ask him questions if he wakes up.
Well, not yet. Not until I have enough clues to make an intelligent guess. In this sort of thing, we make haste slowly. We have to have facts.
I understand, Ned. It's just I'm impatient. You can't blame me for that.
Yes? Oh, yes. Send him right in. Well. Hello, Mr. Sawyer.
Got here as fast as I could, Mr. Barron.
Yes, thanks. Let me take your coat.
Oh, thank you.
Just have a seat over there.
Thanks.
Well, it's been a long time since you and I have done business together, huh?
I was beginning to think you'd forgotten that I'm the best private investigator in town.
Well, to come right to the point,
No, thanks, later.
that's the reason you're here.
Your secretary didn't give me any details.
No, she doesn't know any. This is a private matter concerning my daughter-in-law.
Joanne Barron?
Well, she's the only daughter-in-law I've got. You see, she's been operating a motor court out
Yes,
there.
I've heard about her, Mr. Barron.
Oh?
And about the difficulty she's had getting started out there.
Yeah, well, the reason you're here is I want you to find out who and what are behind those difficulties. Well, why the surprise?
Well,
Well, that doesn't tell me much, Mr. Sawyer.
you know how people talk.
No, I don't.
After all, you are the most important family in Henderson.
Look, if you've got anything to say it.
Now, take this Rose Peterson.
Well, I understand the police have her.
Do you know Miss Peterson?
No, of course not.
Then you don't know who's in back of her arrest.
Well, I read in the newspapers that she was charged with armed robbery.
But you don't know who signed the complaint?
Well, why should I? It wasn't published in the newspapers.
Well,
Yes?
I'm sure that Rose Peterson was planted out at your daughter-in-law's place for a reason.
So?
The reason being to put your daughter-in-law out of business.
Now, look, you're not telling me anything I don't already know. Now, why I brought you in here is that I want you to find out who's in back of it all.
You really want the truth?
Well, of course.
No matter who it hurts?
Of course.
All right, sir. Now I understand what I'm to do.
Well, what did you think?
Private detectives aren't supposed to think, Mr. Barron.
Oh.
At least not until they get their job straight. Where do I start? With your daughter-in-law?
No. My daughter-in-law doesn't want any help. At least, she doesn't want any help from me.
All right. Oh, just one thing, Mr. Barron.
Yes?
You get started on a matter like this, sometimes you don't know where it might lead.
Well, that doesn't bother me, so don't let it bother you, Sawyer. All I want is the plain, unvarnished truth.
That's what you want, sir. That's what you'll get.
Hmm.
Shall I call you later today?
No, I'd rather have it personally.
Well, you pick the time.
Well, you better make it, say, around 5 o'clock.
I'll be here.
Yeah.
I've got you straight now.
Huh?
You want just what I find, no matter who is involved?
Well, that's what I said at the beginning.
Maybe I'm just a little dumb, Mr. Barron, but I like to have my clients understand what they ask me to do.
Well, I could put it in writing.
No, that won't be necessary. I'll see you at 5 o'clock.
All right.
Mr. Barron,
Yes?
do you know of any enemies that your daughter-in-law might have in her personal life? I mean, somebody who might go to, well, say, a long way to get her out of business.
Me?
You.
Yes. But since I've engaged you to investigate, you have my word, Sawyer, that I don't know any more about what happened out there than you do.
I see. Well, I better get started.
All right? I hope your mind is at ease now that I'm off the suspect list.
I'll see you at 5, sir.
With facts.
I'll try to have some for you.
Wilbur. Wilbur, listen and hear me. You said you wanted to get in a certain place. Do you hear me, Wilbur? You said you wanted to get in through a door. Don't be afraid. Go through the door. We're here to help you, Wilbur. There are people right here beside you to help you. So don't be afraid. You're not alone. We're here to help you, Wilbur. Try to go through that door. Try to go through that door. Try. 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 Try.
Hello. I'm Irene Manning with some big news. I've just come from the market, and you should have heard the women buzzing about Procter & Gamble's new Cheer. Well, there just isn't a product like it. Cheer is actually blue. These granules are blue in color, but Blue Cheer whips up wonderful white suds. And your wash? Well, Cheer works like blue magic, so beautifully clean and white. You see, Cheer's exclusive formula contains a blue magic whitener. Wait till you see how bright your next wash is. Why, the new Blue Cheer guarantees you the cleanest, whitest wash possible, or double your money back. And it's so easy on washable colors. On your hands, too. Try it. Here's the box. New Blue Cheer. It's blue magic.
Search for Tomorrow is brought to you every day, Monday through Friday, by Spick and Span, America's once-over cleaner for painted walls, woodwork, and linoleum, and by Cheer, the amazingly different wash day suds for the cleanest, whitest wash possible.
Well, I promised you that we were going to get musical tonight, and we are, because in our all soap version of TV Classics, where we're taking you back to some of the vintage versions of, and sad part about it is that every one of these that we're showing you tonight, they're all gone. And I know that we didn't think that these shows would depart, but that's just the way television has become. It became too expensive for the networks to produce the high gloss, high quality soap operas. And so many of them are gone now, but they are forever etched in our memories. And I came across this gentleman on my YouTube feed about 2 years ago, and I marveled at the fact that he could play soap opera themes that were the classics, and it sounded just like the studio musician, Charles Paul and others who did them. Lance Jackson joins us here on TV Classics from Atlanta, Georgia. Lance, it's good to have you.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Lance, let me get right into this. First off, so that we can put a frame of reference on this, how did you develop your musical training?
Well, I've always wanted to play, but when I was 11, we moved from an Atlanta project into a neighborhood, into our first house. And in that community was a school that offered guitar lessons. I go into my first day of guitar class. I'm in 8th grade, and there was an organ there. So I had access to it, and I begged the teacher, and she let me, she let me play on it. And then I begged her to start an organ class, which they did. About 5 of us joined, and after 2 weeks, I was the only one left. So of course, couldn't justify keeping the class. And what that teacher did, who was Mary Frances Early, who, by the way, is the first African-American graduate of University of Georgia. But she taught me after school the rest of that school year.
Mary Frances went to my alma mater. And so We're both UGA grads from that, and to be candid with you, I have so many great memories of my years there. Let me move it forward again. Now, if you go to Lance's YouTube page, and it's Lance Jackson, if you go to his YouTube page, you will see some marvelous samples of his work, and I just have an amazing amount of respect for his talent. But Lance, now you got to tell me how you got really your motivation to do soap opera themes.
Well, here again, I have always loved the sound of an organ, and you didn't have to make me go to church, you know, as a little boy, because I knew there was going to be organ music. But also, my mother was a huge soap opera fan. And of course, growing up in the house, you sing, but I'm hearing organ music. So when other kids were outside playing, I'm inside with mama watching the soap operas, not so much then understanding storylines, but listening for organ music.
Well, now, Lance, I know this. If your mother was the same as my grandmother was, I would venture that she probably said when it was time for the soaps to come on, she'd say, get it to the stories. It was always the stories.
Yeah. Turn on my stories.
And they, I mean, for those of you who don't know what it was like to have daytime drama from top to bottom, usually they started at noon in the Eastern time zone, 11 in the Central time zone, but they would go, you might have to switch from one network to the other while one was running game shows, but you literally could watch from 11 until about 4:30 in the afternoon. In fact, when The Edge of Night was on at 4:30 till 5 in the afternoon in the Eastern time zone. And it was one story right after another, and the women would sit home and they'd have their tissue in one hand and they would have to wipe their eyes when somebody was in deep jeopardy or somebody passed on. It was that way because they got so invested in all of that. Lance, we're going to go right now and let our viewers hear one of your samples that is so amazing. And for those of us who remember when Search for Tomorrow, now, I wasn't around when it premiered in 1951, but it was somewhere around the late 50s that I remember first hearing the strains of this theme song. And so we're going to take you back to the way it was when Search for Tomorrow started in 1951. And very early on, believe it or not, as you just saw, Don Knotts was a regular on Search for Tomorrow. He played an amnesiac and he was always going... he could not figure out where he was going in the world. So let's hear Lance play the marvelous theme from Search for Tomorrow. Well, Lance, that hit us right over the head because I thought I was back in the day when we heard this theme for the better part of about 20 years before they went to a pre-recorded vocal version of it. Lance, do you think we lost something whenever we no longer had, and the organ music dated back to radio soap operas. How much do you think we lost something when we went to this pre-taped orchestrated themes, music, and bridges on those shows?
Well, you know, I understand the economics of it, and certainly it must have been quite a job for some of the organists, especially like Charles Paul, who was doing at one time maybe 4 or 5 shows a day. Soaps kind of lost their individuality once everybody went to orchestrated music. Each show kind of had a different sound. Even Charles Paul, with the 4 or 5 shows, his sound from different shows were different, you know. Lost something? Maybe, maybe not. Here, what I think is lost, the love for the artistry of organ playing. I love all types of organ music, from classical to theater organ. My dream is to someday sit at the organ at the in New York City, Radio City Music Hall.
And that's, you know, and when you think about that, of course, I remember when Wheel of Fortune did a week in Radio City Music Hall, probably about 15 years ago. And they actually played the pipe organ there for the music for Wheel that week. It was a spectacular change, and I loved it completely.
Well,
Lance, go ahead.
Aware of that the organist for years at Radio City Music Hall took over as Search for Tomorrow in 1969 until they went to orchestrated music in 73, 74.
Yeah, I remember, man, this man's got his years right, because I remember what it was. And it was so strange that day when they went to this pre-recorded theme. And then there were, I actually have a copy of the vocals to that. When tomorrow comes, what will it bring? And that just, it was contemporary, but it didn't sound like what we had been accustomed to. Lance, we are going to move on to our next show. Now, Search for Tomorrow was the first soap opera but there were others before that, but it was the first one that became a really major hit as a 15-minute show in 1951. So CBS and Procter & Gamble began to decide to expand and do others. And there had been a popular radio soap opera called The Guiding Light on radio. It was a 15-minute soap opera, and they decided to bring it to television. And so we're going to take you back to one of the vintage episodes. The Guiding Light went on for, frankly, 70 years, but it became really one of these shows that was timeless in the fact that the show would evolve, but it never seemed to really change that much. So let's take you back to an episode of The Guiding Light from 1955.
The Guiding Light, presented by Comet, the only cleanser with chlorinol. Comet bleaches out stains and wipes out germs. Welcome to Elm City, USA, where almost everybody uses Comet Cleanser. Population 8,003. Whoops, 4. Betty Simpson must have had her baby. Here's a proud father. Congratulations, Don.
Oh, thanks. Always wanted a boy.
How's the housework?
Awful. Look at that sink. Those stains are really tough.
Where did you get that cleanser?
I just bought it.
Must be some Comet under the sink. Betty's a Comet fan. There. Sprinkle, rub a little. You see, only Comet contains chlorinol, greatest cleaning and bleaching agent ever put in a cleanser. Look.
Well, give me a can opener for food and Comet for cleaning up, but housework's a cinch.
Why don't you get Comet, America's favorite cleanser? It bleaches out stains, wipes out germs as no other leading cleanser can.
Yeah, Michael. Yeah, I'll be glad to see you, and I know Robin will be too. I'm sorry I can't find her to talk to you, but yeah, I'll tell her. Goodbye, Michael. Oh, here you are.
Yes, Papa.
Well, I was calling you all over the house.
Oh, I'm sorry. I went out for a walk. I forgot to tell you. Did you want me for something?
No, but Michael wanted you. He called up just before you came in.
Oh?
You know, I was so surprised when he told me that he's going to fly to New York this afternoon.
Is that why he called me?
Yeah, he wants to stop by on the way to the airport and say goodbye to you.
Well, I don't want him to.
Oh, Robin, I told him it would be all right.
Well, then I'll just call him and tell him I won't be home.
Nine, you must not do this.
I just won't be here when he comes. I'll leave now.
Nine, Robin. You are going to be here and see Michael before he goes away.
Oh, why, Papa? Michael and I have nothing left to say to each other.
Well, Michael must think that you do.
Michael said goodbye to me a long time ago, Papa.
Liebling, would you take my advice for once? For this once only.
That depends.
Look, when Michael comes this afternoon, tell him exactly how you feel about what he is doing, and don't pretend that you agree with him.
Papa, the one thing that I have left is my pride.
Pride? But Michael thinks you understand why he's going to New York.
I do understand.
Nine, you don't. He even thinks you were pleased when he told you he will postpone the annulment of your marriage.
Papa, I'm sorry, but I can't believe that. He may have told you that.
But why should Michael say a thing if he doesn't mean it?
Papa, can't you see through it all? Michael thinks he's doing me a favor, that he's being nice to me by postponing the actual end of our marriage.
Oh, Liebling, you are so wrong.
Papa, the one thing that Dick Grant taught me was never to run away from the truth. Ran away from it for a long time, but not anymore.
But you are running away from the truth when you don't tell Michael exactly how you really feel.
He knows. He knows, Papa Bauer. He just doesn't care.
If I only could make you understand.
You can't. You can't, and I don't want to talk about it.
This kind of tree, a chocolate tree, and this Duncan Hines cake are making news. Because the cake has a new flavor secret. The chocolate tree flavor secret. Yours now in Duncan Hines Devil's Food. The only Devil's Food mix with the chocolate tree flavor secret. This secret starts in Africa with choice chocolate trees like this. From the pods, Duncan Hines gets rich cocos, specially blended to put in Duncan Hines Devil's Food. Your family will love it. 2 layers split makes this 4-layer beauty. Tender, luscious Devil's Food. Taste it. Every tempting crumb moist. Rich with the chocolate tree flavor secret. Deep, fudgy flavor. Duncan Hines, the only Devil's Food mix with this chocolate tree flavor secret. Duncan Hines, delicious.
So he plans to stay away forever.
Oh, come on, Bert. 2 suitcases aren't so much.
But he sent a lot of books on ahead.
Oh, Bert. Now stop fussing, will you?
What's he doing up there?
The boy's finishing dressing.
He wouldn't let me help him pack at all.
Oh, Michael's quite capable of packing for himself.
Why he insists on staying at the Y instead of at your sister's house, I just don't know.
Oh, yes, you do, Bert. Yes, you do. Michael wants to be alone, absolutely alone. Can't say that I blame him.
His funds are going to be so limited. Why turn down the opportunity to stay at a nice home with his...
With relatives who know every problem he's trying to forget.
Darling, do you really think that living so far away among strangers is going to make Michael forget Carl's death any sooner?
No, Michael seems to think it will, so I guess I have to second the motion.
What if he doesn't write much? Now, if he were at Trudy, she...
Oh, yeah. Trudy could keep her eye on him for you.
I didn't say that.
No, but that's what you were thinking. And I guess that's the very reason Michael wants it this way.
That doesn't mean I have to like it. Any more than I approve of his stopping off on the way to the airport to say goodbye to Robin.
Oh, Bert. After all that's happened, you can say that.
I say it because of all that's happened, because we know how Robin feels.
Well, I don't know. Maybe Papa was right.
Right, how?
I think maybe Michael ought to be told how upset Robin is by his going away.
Oh, Bill, that wouldn't change anything. Michael wants to go away, and you've said yourself you think he should.
Yes, I know.
Bill, I will not have Michael saddled with any more guilt feelings. I just won't have it.
Honey, you think that's a decision for us to make?
No. No, because it's a decision that's already been made by Robin, because she didn't want to tell him about this. Oh, Bill, you can't do this to him, Bill, please. You just can't do it.
Well, I'm all set. Let's go.
Robin, can you come down now?
In a minute, Papa.
All right. Well, she'll be down right away. Oh, I even forgot to take off your
Oh,
coat.
Papa Bauer, we can't stay home.
No, I'll just put it on the sofa here.
Well, I'm so sorry that Meta and Bruce aren't here. If I would have known sooner that Michael is going away today, I would have gotten in touch with them in time.
Well, I'm pretty sure Michael understands that.
We thought it was best this way.
Yeah, maybe. Well, tell me, Michael, where are you staying? In New York?
At the Y, Papa.
At the Y? But why not at your Aunt Trudy and Uncle Clyde?
Yeah, that was my reaction too, Papa Bauer, but Michael seems to have made up his mind this way.
Oh, here you are, Robin.
Hello, Bert. Bill?
Hello, dear.
Hello, Michael.
How are you?
I'm fine. I'm just fine.
Well, now come on, sit down. No reason for us to stand around. I'll tell Anna to bring us some coffee, yeah?
Oh, Bill, I don't...
No, thanks.
No coffee, really?
Well, Mike doesn't have very long before takeoff.
Oh, for a minute I forgot that.
Robin, have you been doing any volunteer work at the hospital with Maida lately? I prefer not to go to Cedars Hospital at all, Bert. I did go with Maida, though, to the Bowden Art Gallery.
Sounds interesting.
Oh, it was, extremely.
You don't paint yourself, though, do you, Robin?
No. I was thinking of taking lessons.
Well, it's a fine idea, don't you think?
Oh, yes. Yes, I know how Marie Grant loves painting. It means so much to her.
Yes, will you be studying with Marie?
I'll have to wait and see.
It is getting awfully late.
Oh, yes.
Michael, I really think that we ought to get going, don't you?
Oh, I've got a few minutes yet. I want to talk to Robin. Let's go to the patio.
The patio?
Yes.
Well, all right, Michael.
This is the first night that I've been out here
Since Night Carl died.
This is why I have to go away. To try and forget that night. To put it as far behind me as I can so I can live with myself again.
Yes, so you told me.
I wish I could tell you how long I'll be gone. It'll only be as long as I need to pull myself together again.
You don't have to go through that, Michael.
Yeah, but I want to. I want you to know that I'll only be gone a short while, as long as I have to.
Yes. Yes, of course.
I get sick in the pit of my stomach just standing out here. I can hear Carl fall. I can see him lying there.
Then let's go inside.
No, not yet. But you do understand, don't you? That this is the only way that I can get back to myself again?
Michael, I understand completely. And that's why I think I ought to give you this.
No, I don't want that. It's yours. I want you to have it.
No, Michael. It's much better that you have it, and then everything will be as it was before. And then when you're in New York, you'll really be free.
Don't you understand? I want you to keep that. It's your wedding ring.
You have to forget that, too, now, Michael.
Well, I'm sorry, Mike, but you're going to have to hurry to catch the plane.
Your father's right. You don't want to miss the plane.
Goodbye, Michael. And don't forget to go and see your Aunt Ruby often.
No, I won't, Papa.
We'll be thinking of you and praying for you.
Thanks. Thanks a lot. Take care of yourself.
And come home soon to us.
Sure. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Michael. Good luck.
Sure.
The Guiding Light has been presented by New Germoseptic Draft, the new wash day product that washes in lasting germ protection, helps prevent diaper rash.
Now, what you just heard was Lance Jackson playing that theme from The Guiding Light. And, you know, Lance, when that show started on radio, it was actually the story of a minister and his family. And the title, The Guiding Light, came from the fact that he was trying to lead people into spiritual directions for their lives. And look on that as a guiding light. Now, by the time it was over with, it was anything but that. But in fact, they took the title, the word "the" out of it. I don't know why they thought that was any different. But Lance, that particular song sounded more like an old classic radio soap opera theme song.
Yeah. And certainly a lot of the great theater organists had jobs playing for radio soaps.
I want you to do something for our viewers. You are sitting nearby, and Lance may need to move his camera a little bit. You've got an organ, and you've told me a little something about this story. This is the organ that you play a lot of this music on. Tell me the story of how you actually got this when it's a con organ.
Yes. It is a Con 643 theater organ. I've always wanted to have one, but I'm organist for an Atlanta funeral home. So I had to go find another organ for them. And while looking for them, I came across a Facebook Marketbook post offering this theater organ. So I went out and played it with the intentions of, maybe getting it. And it's in great shape. And it was left behind by a local organist who had died in 2020. His brother was settling the estate. And as I said, I went out to play it. And the brother just wept. And he was like, "You can have it." So I have a theater organ for free.
I was joking, Lance, before we started TV Classics this week about that story. Reminds me so much of the Andy Griffith episode where the Mayberry Church organ went kaput. And Clara Edwards was so distraught, and there was a farmer that was trying to sell an organ to raise money for his barn. And so they didn't have their pledges. And so Clara went in and began playing Some Enchanted Evening and just charmed him right into letting them pay for it on time.
Right.
That was a classic. Lance has so many times, and he plays a lot of Christian music. I'm telling you, his version of My God Is Real and so many of the other greats that he has on his YouTube page. You just got to go there because you'll stay there for half hour, an hour at a time and just listen to all of his great work. But CBS had most of the dominant soap operas for the first 15 years of television. And then somehow NBC had a lot of failures. They tried doing one called Young Dr. Malone that was based on a radio soap opera. They tried doing From These Roots that ran for only 3 years, but it introduced to television the great Anne Flood, who later became really the leading female actress on The Edge of Night. And then also you had an attempt to do something based on the magazine Modern Romances. In fact, that was on after Queen for a Day. After everybody heard all the women's sob stories on Queen for a Day, they tuned in for that 15 minutes of Modern Romances. But what you have here is finally in the mid-1960s, of course, Days of Our Lives came along, and that is the only one that's left on NBC. But you also had, in the case of NBC, finally a Procter & Gamble soap opera that did click. It was called Another World. So we're going to take you back to an episode from the mid-1960s of this one that is one of the few up until that point that NBC had as a success. So let's go and listen to Another World, and then immediately afterward we'll hear Lance play the theme song.
The following program is brought to you in living color on NBC.
And now, in color, Another World.
Hello?
Darling,
Stephen.
Alice, I've got to talk to you right away.
No, I'm going to hang
Now,
up.
listen to me first. I've got something very important to talk to you about. Please.
Stephen, I told you that we had nothing to say to each other.
Please, you're not being fair to either of us.
I meant it, Stephen. I mean, I really meant it. When I said that I would leave Bay City if you keep trying to see me. Oh. Hi, Alice. Hi. Is Mary's your mother here? No, she's not. Oh, well, I guess I should have called. And ask her to give me a ring, okay? She's gone. Away. Gone away? Where? Oh, she's visiting a sick friend. Well, how long will she be gone? We don't really know. Look, she calls, though, every night, so if it's important, I can have her call you back. No, that's okay. You can wait. What's the matter? Something wrong? No. Oh, you're awful upset. Maybe I could help. It's Steve. Steve. Sorry, really. Sorry. Honey, come on. It's okay. It's okay. Sorry for somebody, for loving somebody. Hey, listen, why don't I fix us a cup of tea? Thanks, I'll be all right. Why is it so hard to stop loving someone? Well, if you really love him, why do you want to stop? I have to. Honey, do you want me to stay here with you for a while? No, really, I will be all right. Well, Alice, I really want to see you happy. Oh, somehow I really don't think it's going to happen. It will if you let it. You don't understand. Oh, yes, I do. I've been pretty unhappy myself sometimes. Well, all of us, I guess, have been. You have to be ready when happiness comes to you. What do you mean? You shouldn't keep secrets from somebody you love. How do you know I'm doing that? Aren't you? Look, if you were staying with Nancy till I get back, I better go home. Alice, things will work out. If you let them. Okay.
We'll return to our story in just a moment.
The night that you found me with Rachel, we were meeting to talk about Jamie. That's all.
Stephen, I heard what you and Rachel were talking about, and it had nothing to do with Jamie.
What did you hear?
That you were with her the day I lost my baby. Is that true?
Yes, it is, but I can explain that, Alice.
Stephen, why didn't you explain it all those weeks ago?
Because I was waiting for the right time, that's why.
No, Stephen, I stood right outside your apartment door. I heard Rachel telling you that you shared many things besides Jamie.
Alice, that's not true. She was wrong. Look, there's nothing between Rachel and me.
You never would have told me you were meeting her that night, would you?
Alice, you didn't even give me a chance.
Stephen, we promised we wouldn't keep things from each other.
I never wanted to hide anything from you.
Then why did you?
Because I knew that you never really liked my seeing Jamie. That's why.
I didn't mind your seeing Jamie. It was Rachel I didn't want you to see.
All right. Well, I couldn't. She wouldn't let me see Jamie unless I saw her too.
You never told me that.
Well, I knew that. I knew how you felt about her.
All right, maybe I was wrong. But Stephen, that doesn't excuse your seeing her behind my back.
Why didn't you just walk right in and fight for what you believed in?
Oh, Stephen, when I heard you were with her the day I lost my baby, I really didn't believe in anything anymore.
But Alice, you jumped to a lot of conclusions that weren't true.
But if you hadn't always loved her, you wouldn't be married to her now.
So untrue. I married her, Alice, because I thought that I had lost you. This didn't matter anymore, so.
You married her to spite me?
No, I married her because I wanted Jamie to have a home. I wanted him to have a father. I didn't want to have to make special plans to see him all the time.
Stephen, we could have worked that out. One way or another.
Alice, we could have worked a lot out if Gerald Davis hadn't left that message at the hospital. Believe me, I didn't do anything that I shouldn't have done.
Stephen, I wanted to believe that then, and I want so much to believe it now.
I loved you more than anything on this earth.
I don't think that you really know what love is. Love is giving, not taking from people.
You don't really think I do that, do you?
It doesn't matter what you're thinking.
Well, it does to me.
Stephen, why did you come here today?
Because I wanted to look into your eyes, that's why. And I wanted to hear your voice. And I wanted to tell you the truth about the night that you left me.
Does Rachel know you're here?
When she's away.
Then you're, going behind her back the same way you went behind mine.
Why do you see it that way?
Stephen, I really don't think that we had any more to, say to each other.
You don't really believe that, do you?
Well, whatever we say isn't going to change anything, is it? We're divorced. You're married to Rachel now.
We can change that if we want.
I've just given up dreaming about things that can't come true.
But that can come true. If you care for me as much as I care for you. You have anything more to say to me?
I never wanted to see you again.
Well, I can understand that.
Now that I have, I don't know what to think.
I want to know if you still care for me.
I can't answer that.
Why not?
Because you're still married to Rachel.
All right. If I weren't married to Rachel.
Stephen, it's too late. You'll only hurt yourself and Jamie.
Will you answer my question?
Does it mean that much to you?
It means more to me than anything in the world.
Stephen, I could never forget what we had together. I tried to put it out of my mind, but it didn't work.
That's all I wanted to know.
Elliot has asked me to marry him when he divorces Iris.
You going to?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I can't go on like this.
You love him?
I'm fond of him. Stephen, I could never love anybody as much as I loved you. But there's no point in talking about this now. There's no hope for us.
Alice, look, promise me one thing, please. Don't go away. Whatever you do, please just don't. Don't leave again.
Stephen, you're still married.
Well, I can free myself.
Rachel will never let you go.
She won't have any choice.
What about Jamie?
Just take it one step at a time. Look, now, please, just promise me that you won't leave until I can get this. Until I can work it out. All right?
It may take a long time.
I don't care how long it takes. Will you see me again?
I don't think we should.
Don't you want to see me again?
Of course I want to. I just don't. I don't think it would be wise for either of us.
Please. Just don't leave Bay City, okay?
I won't. I'll stay and I'll wait for you.
For the first time since you left me, my life begins to make some sense to me.
Stephen, the same with me. Excuse me, I'm gonna go get Pat, and you can go home. Hello, Mr. Fred. Did you bring Jamie to see me today? What are you doing here?
Well, Pat and I dropped by to see Alice.
Dennis, it's not polite to pry into other people's affairs.
Pat. I was so afraid to see him, and now I'm so happy that you talked me into it. Oh, honey, what happened? I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I only know that for the first time, I feel that there's hope for us. Things are going to work out, Pat. Stephen promised me that he's going to work things out. But honey, how can things work out? I don't know, but they will. Listen, I'll talk to you when I can get my head together, okay? But right now, I told Stephen that I would come and get you so that you can go home. Okay, let's go.
I'm sorry, Mr. Frame. I didn't know you were going to be here.
Oh, that's all right.
Oh, Dennis, I didn't expect you back so soon.
It's my fault, Miss Matthews. I must have misunderstood what time I was supposed to bring Dennis back.
Oh, that's all right. Yes, we have to leave anyway. Nice to see you, Dennis. Bye. Bye, Mr. Fred. Say hello to Jamie for me, okay?
Yeah, sure will. Goodbye.
Shall I help Dennis get ready for bed?
No, that's okay. I can do it. Thank you for taking him out to dinner.
We had a good time, didn't we, then?
We sure did. Good night, Mr. Fred.
Good night, Penny. Don't bother to see me out, Miss Matthews.
All right. Good night, Mrs. Goddard.
Good night.
Be sure to join us again for Another World. Wardrobe by Orvox. And now stay tuned for You Don't Say, starring Tom Kennedy. Next in color here on NBC.
Lance, I want you to tell our viewers how you actually learned to play, because a lot of these themes that you have mastered, you didn't have because there wasn't sheet music readily available to the general public.
No. And in recent years, through someone on Facebook, I've gotten my hand on copies of handwritten scores of Edge of Night and Love of Life. But I grew up watching, like I said, watching soap operas with my mother. And then at her request on the day she had to work, will you watch my stories for me? Of course. I can hear some organ music. And what was the question again?
Yeah, but that's how did you learn to, because so many people talk about from time to time playing by ear. Tell me how that works. I've always marveled at people who can do that and not have music in front of them.
I have what I like to call a gift. I was gifted with being able to hear it and play it. And of course, then I got lessons, like I told y'all about Miss Early, because she told me, she said, you may not be able to hear everything. So if you are able to read, you will never go wrong. You'll always find it. Now combine those two and you'll be one of the best musicians in the world.
I would not disagree with Miss Mary Francis's advice at all, because as far as I'm concerned, this guy right here, I have to worry about on Zoom pointing in the right direction. This guy right here is absolutely one of the finest musicians in the world that you will hear. Now, one of the shows that, and this was another one that I heard him play, they had a theme song when this show premiered in 1954 that lasted for something like about 8 or 9 years. And then they went to, it was another organ-driven theme that also had piano behind it. But this show premiered in 1954. It was not a Procter & Gamble soap. It was sponsored by American Home Products, which did some of the same types of products that you had for the home. And at that time, the audience they're trying to attract the housewife. And so in 1954, this show premiered. And then somewhere around 1963, they changed the theme of this show. This is one that was centered around a family with the last name of Ames. Peter Ames, and they would oftentimes say Peter Ames and his 3 grown children as they try to navigate the waters of life. And that's what announcer Ken Roberts would say at the end of every show during the 1960s. But there was a young actress named Jada Rowland who became a very, very popular ingenue on that show. And then she literally grew up before the audience's eyes because she was only 9 years old when the show premiered. But this is a show that certainly had strong character relationships. One actress who joined the cast in 1963 was Judy Lewis, who happened to be the daughter of Loretta Young, and as we found out many years later, Clark Gable. We didn't know that at the time, but Judy Lewis is part of this. Yeah, you're true. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go in and take you back to 1964. And this is one of those dramatic elements of the Ames family in conflict. And you're going to find also on, I don't think she's on this episode, but another actress who became very popular in later years, Diana Mulbauer, who later went on to do a number of films, and she was part of the cast of L.A. Law. And so here we go. We're going to take you back. Oh my goodness, it's hard to think about this. We're going back 58 years. Jeez. And this episode of The Secret Storm.
This is The Secret Storm. Part 1 is brought to you by Franco-American Gravy.
left us outside by the house instead of here in the studio. You do want it here, don't you?
Yes, please. Oh, I love our new home, Jerry.
Well, it's all yours, honey. Yours and the Woodbridge First National Bank.
Jerry, it's getting late.
Well, Dad gave me the day off today to settle in. I thought I'd do your grocery shopping for you and meet the ladies in the new neighborhood, pushing their carts around the shopping market.
You be careful. Just don't run into another nut like Sally.
I've been thinking about her.
You have?
I was an idiot not to realize that Aunt Pauline was right. Everything that Sally did was designed to turn me against you. Every chance she had. And she invented most of the chances at that.
You weren't so idiotic, darling. She was a very crafty, very sick girl.
All that flattery. My dumb male ego ate it all up.
Well, you didn't fall for her. Even when you didn't realize what she was doing. Now we never have to worry about Sally again.
And I think how close she came to destroying us.
Darling, nobody can destroy us but each other.
Yes, oh, but there's still...
No one includes Matthew, too. The nightmare's over, Jerry. I promise you that. He can never come between us again. I was a fool to let him talk to me about love.
Well, that's different. Maybe he really does love you.
No, I was just a challenging conquest for him. But I can continue to hold him off. The important thing is that you believe that he was honorable.
I believe you. Shall we take a coffee break and try out your new kitchenette?
All right, I brought the coffee over from the house. I'll warm it up.
Do you have to paint today? I mean, is he giving you a deadline to meet?
No. Neither Mr. Devereaux nor my work is going to come between me and my husband and our time alone from each other again. Never.
Well, what if he should lose respect?
What? With me? Oh, you mean my work?
Yes, I was thinking of your work.
Well, that's a risk I'm willing to take, Jerry.
Hope I don't want to be responsible
Darling,
for
this
having
is my decision. I don't want you to feel guilty about it. Besides, I don't think he'll drop me. His wife likes her sables.
Sables yet? Well, I hope you don't get too rich. I'd hate to be a kept man.
Maybe I'll just be a quick fad.
Hope I'm serious. Let's find out about your hands. If this doctor that Valerie's heard about is so great, you probably have an excellent chance of a full recovery. No more stiffness. No more pain.
No more fame?
That's still the thing, isn't it?
Jerry, I'm not going to sacrifice us anymore for my painting. Darling, nobody can touch us if we just remain solid. Solid like those boulders under our lovely new house, or the stones in our beautiful fireplace. I wish it was cold enough so we could have a fire.
We'll have lots of them. For the rest of our lives.
And we'll lie on the floor with the stereo on. And roast marshmallows with Jerry Jr.
Girls are okay, too. In fact, I rather like them. Thank you.
Darling, this is the first time in months we've been like this. So close.
We never actually did stop loving each other, darling. It's just all those misunderstandings. The remarks that got twisted. All the things that got said about us to the other. And all those times that you didn't dare tell me the truth because you were afraid of worrying me.
And the truth was so simple all the time.
Well, after this, we'll always talk everything out. Just the two of us.
I'll never believe anyone but you again, Jerry.
And you will believe me? And I will believe you.
I never intentionally deceived you. I couldn't.
How you can turn out something like that cheese omelet on a plug-in-one burner, I'll never know.
Jerry thinks I'm a good cook, too.
Yes, always Jerry. What about him?
Well, he came looking for me. And he took me to some dim candlelight lodge, and we had a long, bittersweet talk. I think I'm going to let him miss me for a while. You know, it's a mistake to be too available.
Sally, I thought you'd already won that war.
What's happening is much too complicated to explain. You wouldn't understand anyway.
On the contrary, I've been fascinated. There isn't a chapter like it in any of my psychology books. I wouldn't miss it for anything.
Are you making fun of our love, Sharon?
No, I'm just finding it harder and harder to keep track of.
Well, I know it's confusing. I'll wash these up later.
For instance, if Jerry came hunting for you, how does it happen that you just talked?
Well, I told you, you wouldn't understand. After all, we haven't had an affair. And I only let him kiss me once.
When was that?
In the studio. Suddenly, he'd thrown his arms around me. I was practically helpless. And then Hope opened the door, and there was that horrible moment when...
Sally, that isn't the way you told that before.
Well, if you're going to be like that...
Well, listen, I'm not in high school. I'm starting to study for my master's this summer. And I'm beginning to see there's some holes in your story.
Well, with all my faults, the one thing I've never done is lie.
Well, darling, you do exaggerate at times. The last time you told me about Hope coming into the room, there was no kiss. And now you've added one.
Well, I didn't tell you before because I thought you'd be shocked. I know I was. And yet, it was at that moment that I knew Jerry really loved me. Even before he told me.
That tears it. You never said he told you.
Well, he did.
Oh, brother. Look, I think you're playing with dynamite anyway. And I'm beginning to feel that you're headed for a big explosion. Or has it already happened and you forgot to tell me?
Look, I'm getting a little sick of this. The one thing I have never done is lie. I despise liars and all suspicious, distrustful people. You can call it an obsession if you like.
You are really sick.
And I'm sick of your amateur analysis. Hello? Yes, it is. You're where? Oh, really? Well, that depends on what it is. You know, I'd be very happy to help if... Yes? Yes, I can do that. Wait a minute. Pencil, quick. All right, go ahead. Just a minute, please. All right, I'm ready. Yes? Oh, of course I can do that. I just adore to. Yes, I thought you'd think so. Goodbye.
Jerry?
I didn't say it was Jerry.
Oh, come on, Sally, tell me.
I think curiosity is sickening.
After all, I am only female.
Yes, but I can't trust you anymore. And even if I did tell you, you wouldn't believe me anyway. I have to make a phone call, Sharon.
So? Want me to leave the room?
I just have one bitty phone call to make.
Something else to blow the bitty marriage to bitty pieces?
I don't think I like you anymore, Sharon.
That's because I can see through you. Sally, suddenly you are so painfully obvious.
You're not going to goad me into telling you what that phone call was about. Now, don't you have to go somewhere?
No. And there's a phone in the hall.
You know that's always busy. And since you're expressing yourself, I wish you'd make your bed once in a while.
I'll make my bed now, and you make your phone call.
Don't bother. I'll find a phone booth.
Oh, forget it.
Hello? Hello, Hope. This is Sally.
Goodbye, Sally.
Oh, please don't hang up. I've got to talk to you.
Well, I hope it'll be brief.
No, I mean really talk, not just on the phone.
I'm afraid that's out of the question. I have nothing to say to you.
Hope, I'm pleading with you. It's awfully important. You're not a vindictive person, and after all, we were good friends. Couldn't you do me one last favor for old time's sake?
You're wasting your time, Sally. There is nothing for us to talk about.
Yes, there is. Do you think I would humiliate myself and call you if I didn't know it was terribly important?
To you or to me?
To you, that's the truth.
Well, can't you just tell me right now?
Well, when I tell you, you'll understand what I mean. I promise you that.
The words truth and promise have little meaning coming from you, Sally.
Well, if I admit that and still beg you to come, will you change your mind, please?
Well, where do you want me to meet you?
Do you know the Helderberg Lodge?
Well, that roadhouse? It's way out of town.
That's where I'll be.
But I don't...
I'm leaving right now. I'll see you.
Ready to put out the light, dear?
It's over. I did the wash with sunshine.
New sunshine rinso with sunshine whiteners. Put rinso sunshine in your machine. Do all your washing with rinso sunshine. Sunshine whiteners, rinso clean.
It really does act new.
Hi, Quentin.
George.
Gee, you look awful.
I'm brushed out, George.
What happened?
The kids, they switched to Stripe.
Stripe? The toothpaste kids like to use?
Oh, they do.
Hey, here they come!
Hey, come on.
Maybe it's the stripes or the minty taste. Kids really do brush more often with Stripe. And what good is a toothpaste if they don't use it? Try Stripe. Good for teeth, but tough on toothbrushes. Look at Quentin.
Mrs. Ames?
Yes.
Would you come this way, please?
In there?
Yes, you're expected.
Thank you.
Hope, wait. I only need 5 minutes. I'm sorry I had to do this, but you did refuse to see me.
Matthew, this is disgusting. You don't believe for a minute I'm going to stay, do you?
Listen to me, just 30 seconds. Then you can make up your mind freely whether you'll stay or not.
I've already made it up.
Hope, this door is not locked. This has to do with your career.
I was an idiot to come here in the first place. I shouldn't compound it by listening to you.
In exchange for listening, make your own conditions.
Well, there's only one condition. If you break your promise and talk about anything but my career, I'll do a very unhope-like thing. I'll scream at the top of my lungs.
Your condition is accepted. And I apologize for my deviousness.
You and Sally?
I needed someone to call for me. She knows nothing of what it's about.
I don't either.
Will you sit down? So that I can? Thank you.
I left a note for Jerry saying I'd be home soon.
You will be, I promise you. May I order something for you?
Absolutely not.
Whatever you say.
Please get on with it, Matthew. I don't like being here with you.
You're safe. This is a public place.
Oh, I know I'm safe. But I'm very, very angry. And if you don't come to the point immediately, I'm going to leave without hearing what it is.
It's simply this. I've completed all the arrangements for your one-man show.
Oh, that's wonderful. But you could have told me that on long distance.
You refused to talk to me the other day. This attitude is very unprofessional. The kind of career relationship we've built together depends on closeness between us. Your work has to grow. You can't simply stay locked away from me. Your show will be in Paris.
Paris? You're sending my paintings to Paris?
Yes.
Oh, Matthew.
I don't know whether you realize how rare it is for a new American artist to be launched in Paris.
A one-man show in Paris? Oh, that sort of takes my breath away.
I imagined it would. Originally, I planned to make the announcement at the banquet, but I thought instead I'd give you a chance to get used to it.
Oh, Matthew.
You see?
I fully appreciate what you must have done to accomplish this. But you also hoped I'd be a little more flexible away from my husband, didn't you?
I've always been honest with you, Hope. It did cross my mind that news like this might bring us closer again.
I'll repay you for your effort the only way I can. On canvas.
You've partially repaid me by the anticipation of seeing your return to Paris as a celebrity.
I can't go.
To your own show?
I'm not going to Paris with you, Matthew. I'm thrilled, and my breath is taken away. But this is one-man show that's going to have to proceed without the artist.
But that's unheard of.
I'm sorry. Oh, I see. It's all a device to get me to go to Paris with you.
The show is real, Hope. It's an accomplished fact. I haven't misled you.
No. I positively will not leave Jerry again. Even if my show has to be canceled.
Hey, Mom, what's that in the toaster?
Something new for your breakfast. Toastums.
Toastums? What are toastums?
Hot, flaky pastry made with real fruit filling. See?
Package says they're called Toastum Pop-Ups. Good. Better put a couple more in.
Morning. Say, what's that in the toaster?
Toastums. They're new.
Toastums, huh? Nice and flaky. Tastes like real fruit inside.
It is made with real fruit inside, fresh and moist. And Toastums don't need refrigeration.
All you do is open them, drop them in.
Just wait a few seconds and... What's in a toaster, Mom?
Toastums, honey.
You'll love them.
Toastums, fresh hot pastry, toaster quick. New from General Foods.
I'm sorry, sir. We're not open for dinner till 7.
What? Oh, I'm just looking for someone, thank you.
Well, there's no one here, as you can see.
Well, do you have any private dining rooms?
Oh, yes, sir.
Well, are they in use?
Oh, would you like to arrange for?
No, I don't want to arrange anything. My wife's just supposed to meet somebody here, that's all. Miss Marshall. Is she here, Sally Marshall?
There's no Miss Marshall here that I know of, sir.
But she must be. She's here with my wife, Mrs. Ames.
Oh, Mrs. Ames.
Well, then she is here. Look, what's all this about? Why are you looking so funny? The girl she's with is Sally Marshall. Look, I'm not going to get you fired for not knowing someone's name. Just tell me where they are.
Look, I don't want to get in any trouble.
Trouble? What trouble? I know my wife's here. She left me this note. Why all the mystery?
Oh, well, that's different, I guess. Well, you know how it is, sir. I mean, angry husbands.
I'm not angry. I'm just getting a little impatient. I am Jerry Ames, and my wife told me that she'd be here.
Oh, well, sure, of course. I'm sorry, sir, but you can see how it looked to me.
Wait a minute. How what looked?
So I was wrong. I said I'm sorry. Usually when a gentleman meets a lady in private and the lady's husband turns up...
Gentlemen, what gentleman? What gentleman?
Hey, Mr. Devereux, if you'll come this way, please.
Never mind. Forget it.
And feel so soft and shiny. And all without tears. Johnson's baby shampoo. Try it.
If you use Johnson's new pink baby lotion, your baby is protected for a full 14 hours from rash-causing staph germs. That's much longer than any other leading lotion, because Johnson's has hexachlorophene. Softening, soothing Johnson's. The 14-hour lotion.
This is The Secret Storm. Part 2 of The Secret Storm has been brought to you by good-tasting Stripe, the toothpaste with red and white stripes. Be sure to watch The Secret Storm Monday and every day, Monday through Friday.
Well, you just heard Lance, absolutely. If you want to talk about Xerox copy of Charles Paul playing that theme of The Secret Storm, it was there. The show was 15 minutes long until we went to 1962, and it expanded to a half hour because they tried to do the same thing with The Brighter Day, which was the show that was right before it. The Brighter Day didn't last but about 9 months as a 1 hour show, but The Secret Storm thrived as a 4 to 4:30 show as we're getting late into the afternoon. I want you to tell me about this, Lance, in doing these kinds of theme songs. Some of these you have done in which you have the organ in one hand and you got one hand on the organ and one hand on the keyboard. Now, I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. Now, how in the world did you have developed that skill to play two different keyboard instruments at the same time?
Listen, back in the 70s, when I was listening, and my mother found Charles Paul's address at CBS, and I wrote to him because I marveled at being able to hear two instruments simultaneously. But I could read when I was 4. So I saw that music was by Charles Paul. Now, how are we getting two sounds from one person? And he wrote me back and explained to me his setup. Most times the organ would be to his right and a piano, a Steinway piano, to his left. And that's how we did it. And so I practiced and practiced and practiced till I got it.
How much practice do you put in, say, when you're really into it? How much practice do you put in per day?
I touch my instruments. There were 3, a keyboard. I also play guitar and sax. I touch an instrument every day. How much time do I spend? I don't even know. You know, I'm goal oriented. So when I sit down to play a piece, it's always my goal not to leave the instrument until I feel I have perfected it.
I can tell you when I look,
hours.
When I looked at the way you do these soap themes and a few others, and one I'm trying to get him to work on, it's hard because it's one of these that because it was over audience applause, you can't hear it that well. But one of the classic game show themes with an organ was Concentration. And it was so lively, the audience would get in there and start clapping to it. it was always entertaining. But it's just amazing to me, though, that even the nuances of every single element of these themes you've been able to master. And I guess maybe you hear it in your head and in your mind. Am I right about that?
Yes, I hear it. And I'm not satisfied until I find the notes I'm hearing on the organ.
Well, I am saving the 2 absolute classics in my mind for last, because I think for those of you who were all-time soap opera fans, these were probably in the 60s and up into the early 70s. These were the 2 numbers 1 and 2 soap operas on television, particularly in the 60s, because one of them was a traditional soap. The other one was really more of a mystery show because of the fact that they did more intrigue as opposed to having it be romance. Although later years it did change. But the show that really took off and was actually they premiered on the same day, April 1st, 1956. And this first one that we're going to show you, we're going to take you back to one from the 1960s. It has a little history behind it too, because on the day that President Kennedy was assassinated in 1963, this show was in progress live at the time that the first bulletin came through and Walter Cronkite told CBS viewers that the president had been shot. They went back to the show. The actors had no idea what was going on. They went back to the show temporarily, and then they came back about 1:48 in the afternoon and didn't go back to it, obviously. But As the World Turns, the story of the Hughes family. And of course, in later years, a lot of you remember Dr. Bob, and he became really the central figure of the show. But the Hughes family, Chris and Nancy and their children, and of course, then that vixenish Lisa that came on and married Dr. Bob, and she turned everything into turmoil on As the World Turns. So we're going to go to that one right now from 1962. As well, again, I think about this, we're going back 60 years on this. And then you're going to hear Lance play the entire song, the theme from As the World Turns. Enjoy, everybody.
And now for the next 30 minutes, As the World Turns. Brought to you today by Gentle Joy, the dishwashing liquid with the mildness you can see on your hands. And by Comet Cleanser. It bleaches out stains, wipes out germs as no other leading cleanser can.
Welcome to Elm City, USA, where almost everybody uses Comet Cleanser. Population 8,003. Whoops, 4. Betty Simpson must have had her baby. Here's the proud father. Congratulations, Don.
Oh, thanks. Always wanted a boy.
How's the housework?
Awful. Look at that sink. Now, those stains are really tough.
Where did you get that cleanser?
Just bought it.
Must be some Comet under the sink. Betty's a Comet fan. There. Sprinkle, rub a little. You see, only Comet contains chlorinol, greatest cleaning and bleaching agent ever put in a cleanser. Look.
Well, give me a can opener for food and Comet for cleaning up, and housework's a cinch.
Why don't you get Comet, America's favorite cleanser? It bleaches out stains, wipes out germs as no other leading cleanser can.
I tried to phone Jeff not once, but several times.
Grace, you know that Dr. Casson has given orders that Jeff should not have any incoming phone calls.
I'm beside myself with worry, Chris, knowing so little.
Well, I'm sure you know just as much as any of us.
Well, surely there must be some progress by now.
Grace, something like this takes time. You've just got to have a little more patience with Dr. Casson's treatment. You have to have a little more faith in him.
I'm beginning to wonder about that.
What do you mean?
I talked to Dick, and that's the reason I'm here today. I feel very strongly that we should call in another doctor.
We?
The family, yes.
Grace, I am in no position to say whether Jeff needs another doctor or not, nor are you.
Well, I get very little satisfaction from Dr. Casson.
This is because he can't tell you very much right now.
Well, what you all seem to forget is that Jeff is my son. Mine and Dick's, and we're just as much interested as...
You are no more concerned or interested than any of us. We are all so anxious for Jeff to lick this problem and be released from the hospital. But, Grace, this takes time. You have got to give Jeff time.
Well, can you tell me what's wrong with calling in a consultant?
Well, I'm sure if it were necessary, Doug would have done it. Have you talked to Penny about this?
Oh, there's no use talking to Penny.
Well, she has to be considered. After all, she is Jeff's wife. What they decided together.
Well, that doesn't necessarily make it right.
Well, I think we will just have to wait and see.
I think that there has been too much waiting, Chris. Penny should have let us know as soon as she realized that there was a problem.
Grace, she thought it was something that she and Jeff could handle.
Well, she had no right thinking that.
I don't think that is very fair, Grace. Penny has been through an awful lot carrying this alone. She just tried to spare us all as much as she could.
Spare us? What? Jeff? An alcoholic? Jeff hospitalized?
Penny did everything she could.
I still think that we should call in another doctor.
I don't think you can do any more than offer your opinion at this time. And I wouldn't even do that. Doug has known Jeff for a number of years.
He's an internist. And I would still like to know just how much good hospitalization is doing Jeff.
Well, have you asked Dr. Casson that?
I have asked Dr. Casson many questions and received little or no satisfaction.
Well, then I suggest that you talk to Penny about this if you feel this way. But mind you, I don't share your feelings, and I don't think that Dick does either. What you don't seem to realize, Grace, is that Jeff has to cure himself. Doug or any other doctor can only help. The cure is up to Jeff.
Have you talked to Dr. Casson today?
No, I haven't.
Well, from the little he told me this morning, Jeff had a pretty bad night.
What do you mean?
He wanted his clothes. He wanted to get out of there. He wanted to go home, and I think maybe he was right.
Do you mean to say that
Yes.
you are...
I feel, and so does Dick, that maybe if Jeff and Penny could just get away somewhere alone, then Jeff's problem would solve itself.
I don't think so. After Jeff is released from the hospital, then he and Penny can decide whether they want to go away. But if I were you, I would keep out of this.
I won't see Jeff. And Dr. Casson tells me that I cannot see him for several days.
But you know, don't you, that Penny hasn't even been able to see him?
Whether you know it or not, Chris, before they became engaged, Jeff and I became very close.
Until you interfered in the San Diego situation.
Oh, you too.
You're not going to deny, are you, that you told Jeff not to go to San Diego, that you told him that he wasn't ready for San Diego?
Well, I don't think I put it as strongly as that.
Well, I think you did. And whether you know it or not, Jeff doesn't feel too kindly toward either you or his father, but more particularly toward you.
I didn't come here this morning, Chris, to hear anything like that from you.
Look, Grace, I am only interested in Penny and Jeff's happiness. And if I can do anything to secure that, regardless of whose toes I'm going to step on, I'll do it. And my advice to you is to stay out of this.
I'll see about that.
Grace, if you get into this now, you're going to regret it. Believe me, you're going to regret it very much.
Bye, girls. Did you ever see such cards, Betty? Not one decent hand all afternoon. Speaking of hands, Grace, wish I could get a new deal on these. Oh, I'm so ashamed of them. Ever try Joy for your dishes? No, why? Well, what you use for doing dishes could be the problem. And Joy can help. Really? How? Because Joy is mild as a bubble bath. You can see that kind of mildness on your hands. Well, it certainly shows on yours. Look, take this Joy home. See? Comes in a pretty new plastic bottle. Gee, thanks. Let's see if we can't get those hands soft and pretty again. When's the next bridge party? Why? Because I'm going to be there with the best hands at the table. Thanks to Joy.
Joy has a mildness you can see on your hands.
Yes?
Well, good morning, Chris.
Tom, when did you get back from your vacation?
Oh, last night.
Well, it is good to see you.
It's good to be back.
Tell me, what kind of a time did you have, anyway?
Well, it was real relaxing and restful.
Oh, I understood you went to some sort of a resort, huh?
Well, it wasn't exactly a resort. It was a lodge in Canada.
Ah, that sounds wonderful.
Well, I was glad to get away, but sure glad to be back. You know, when you're in harness so many weeks out of the year, well, to get away for a while is fine, but, you know, you sort of itch to get back into things.
Well, sit down.
Well, thanks.
Well,
Tell me, how have you been?
Oh, just fine.
The family?
Well, they're quite well, thank you, Tom.
I called the Cassons last night. Doug tells me that Clara and Ellen are away on a cruise.
Yes, that's right. They went, left the week before last.
What happened?
Well, Tom, I don't know any of the details. I guess Ellen just decided that she had to get away.
Uh-huh.
I don't know when they'll be back.
Well, that's what Doug said.
I don't think that Ellen should have tried to do anything after Tim's death, really.
You know, I saw her shortly before I left. She certainly didn't seem like herself.
Yeah, I know.
What are her plans when she gets back?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you, Tom.
Doug told me that he expects Claire back sometime this week, although he wasn't too sure. Apparently, Ellen plans to be away for some time.
Yeah, apparently.
Why the smile, Chris?
I was just wondering about you and your interest in Ellen.
Oh, no. It's nothing like that. I like Ellen. She's a fine girl, intelligent, interesting to be with, but, well, that's as far as it goes.
I see.
Chris, I read an item in the paper this morning. Well, if there's anything I can do.
Anything you can do about what?
Jeff. I thought maybe I'd drop in and see him at the hospital.
Tom, what are you talking about?
Well, in the paper this morning, there was a small item about Jeff Baker, son of Richard Baker, son-in-law of Chris Hughes, etc., being in Memorial Hospital under observation.
Is that all it said?
That's right.
Well, Tom, yes, it's true. Jeff has been in the hospital for a few days. It's nothing serious, really.
Thought I'd drop in and see him on my way home.
No, I wouldn't do that, Tom.
Why not? It's right on my way.
Well, as I understand, Jeff is not having any visitors.
But, Chris, you just said it wasn't serious.
Well, I don't believe it is, Tom.
Is there any possibility that it's a recurrence of the pericarditis?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, well, evidently I've walked into something I shouldn't have. I'm sorry, Chris, if you don't want to talk about it.
No, Tom, it's just... This is a rather delicate subject, Tom. Since you have read about it...
Look, Chris, you don't owe me any explanations. It's really none of my business. I just thought...
Tom, I have not said anything to Judge Lowell about this, but it's a little different with you. You're almost as close to Jeff as I am. This isn't any ordinary problem. It's a drinking problem.
What?
That's right.
You mean that Jeff had to be hospitalized because...
Yes. Got to be that bad.
Well, I can't remember Jeff ever being much of a drinker.
No, he wasn't. He drank very little. Till he went to San Diego. Seems like a great many things had their beginnings in San Diego. Well, I don't know. I guess I can't really say that either.
Chris, you know, if there's anything I can do...
Well, thank you, Tom.
Say, how about lunch?
No, I'm sorry. I'm meeting Penny. She's coming into the city. I'm going to have lunch with her.
Well, give her my best, will you?
I'll do that, Tom. Thank you again.
Take care, Chris.
Right.
Have you lived in New Jersey long?
No, I haven't. We've only been here 3 or 4 months.
Where was home before that?
Missouri.
Folks from Missouri have to be shown. So we washed some new laundry the Smith family had soiled, then asked Mrs. Lois Smith, which half is better looking?
The one on the right. Now, why does it look better, Mrs. Smith?
It looks whiter to me. I think this is better.
Would you like to know what it was washed in?
Yes, I would.
Washed in cheer. The one you like was washed in cheer, and the one that you are not quite as pleased with in another brand. Well, now, Mrs. Smith from Missouri, any conclusions?
Yes, I think I can really see the difference. I think that the cheer did a very nice job.
Right. Most women can see the difference because only Cheer has the blue magic whitener. So, ladies, why don't you try Cheer? See the difference in whiteness yourself.
The first portion of this program has been brought to you today by Blue Cheer and by Gentle Joy. We'll continue with As the World Turns following station identification. And now the second portion of As the World Turns, brought to you today by Nabisco.
late.
That's all right.
Did you see Jeff today yet?
Yes, I saw him, Penny, but he was sleeping. I didn't want to disturb him. Sit down, dear. As I told you, he had a pretty bad night.
I was beginning to think that he was making some progress, but when you called...
Oh, now, Penny, just this one incident doesn't necessarily mean that there's no progress being made. But it was unfortunate. I do know that we can't have him disturbing the entire floor as he did last night.
You mean everyone on the floor heard him?
He was out in the corridor yelling for his clothes, shouting he wanted to get out of here.
Doctor, the fact that he hasn't had a drink in 5 or 6 days...
Well, that's it, of course. Penny, Jeff is going through what we call withdrawal. It isn't pleasant. That's why patients like Jeff are usually kept on the psychiatric floor. Because they can be, and very often are, difficult. I think you should know that if there are any more problems like last night, the hospital may insist that I move Jeff.
Doctor, about last night, do you really think that Jeff would have left here if he'd had his clothes?
My honest answer, Penny, is yes, I think he would have.
And there's still the possibility he might?
Well, there's always that possibility. I plan to talk to Jeff when I make rounds. Of course, I don't know how much good that'll do.
Doctor, if you'd let me see him after you see him, I'm almost sure you wouldn't have any more trouble.
Penny, let me try to explain something to you. I can't hold Jeff here against his will. He can go anytime he wants to. Now, up to now, I haven't made his clothes available to him, in the hope that in the next few days, things will ease up a bit for him. But sooner or later, we're going to have to return his clothing.
May I see him?
If I give you permission, Penny, I want you to be prepared for what you're likely to see.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you'll see a man who isn't quite in control of himself, a man who takes little or no interest in his appearance, a man who's having a pretty rough time of it.
I want to see him.
All right, Penny, I'll see him now, and then, say in about 15 or 20 minutes. But please, do try to be as much yourself as you can. I know it's going to be difficult.
Maybe. I love Jeff. I think you know there isn't anything in the world I wouldn't do for him.
Of course I know that. You can wait here rather than go up on the floor.
There's a lot of talk, isn't there?
You knew there would be.
I really don't care, Doctor. Just so long as Jeff gets well again. That's all that matters.
We'll return to As the World Turns in just a moment.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed.
You're welcome, Tommy. Hi, I'm Carol Reed, and here is the secret of my popularity with the kids. Delicious no-bake brownies made with Nabisco sugar honey grahams finely rolled. You see, to the grahams, you just add some evaporated milk, miniature marshmallows, chocolate bits, and then, well, the recipe's right here on the box of Nabisco sugar honey grahams. And it's so easy, there's no baking. You just chill and serve. And these brownies are wholesome brownies, made with pure Nabisco grahams, not just any graham cracker. It's a wonderful, delicious summer dessert, too, you know. Only Nabisco gives you your favorite sugar honey grahams, plus the no-bake brownie recipe right on the side of the package. You try it, won't you? I'm sure it'll make a great big hit with the nibblers at your house. Oh, yes, Tommy?
Please, can I have some more?
You sure can. Here, help yourself.
Thank you.
Something tells me that I'm going to have to make another batch.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed.
You're welcome, dear. You just be sure you have plenty of Nabisco sugar honey grahams at your house.
I've been waiting for you, Doctor. Why didn't you stop in to see me this morning?
I did.
You were asleep. I didn't want to disturb you. Oh, I looked in on you. You didn't get much sleep last night. I wanted you to get as much as you could this morning.
I had a pretty bad night.
Yes, I know.
Look, I want to know why you took my clothes away from me.
Jeff, if your clothes had been in this room, you would have walked out of here last night, now wouldn't you?
That's right, and I may just want to do the same thing. Now, look, the medication you gave me, it's fine, but it helps a little.
Jeff, the night you were admitted to the hospital, I gave you an idea as to what you could expect. I told you then the medication would help just so much. The rest would be up to you.
Look, if I thought it was going to be anything like this, I'd never have come here.
There are one or two things I want to discuss with you, Jeff.
Oh, yeah, and there are one or two things I want to discuss with you, too, and one of them is Dr. Damon.
Oh, I understand he stopped by to see
Yes,
you.
who told him to come in to see me?
I did.
Why?
Because I think he can be of some help to you.
Well, I don't want any psychiatrist.
Believe me, Jeff, if Dr. Andrews had been in town, I would have consulted with him.
I don't think you should consult with anyone until you get my permission first.
I thought we'd more or less agreed to leave that sort of decision up to me, to my judgment.
Look, maybe we did, but you keep Damon out of it.
All right, now you just sit down for a minute. Go ahead, sit down. Now, I'm going to tell you something, Jeff, and I'm going to tell you straight. It took quite a bit of doing to get you in here on the 4th floor. But if there's any more trouble like there was last night, the hospital's going to insist that you be moved to a psychiatric floor. Because the hospital thinks that your problem is psychiatric. Now, I still think and hope we can handle it here. But I've got to have your cooperation.
Well, you may as well know right now that I would never consent to go to a psychiatric floor.
Jeff, you're not battling me. You're battling yourself.
Look, I think I want my release.
Jeff, wait it out just a few more days.
Look, I have waited it out just as long as I care to.
Not as long as Penny wants you to. She's here, Jeff. She wants to see you. And I've given her permission to see you.
We'll return to As the World Turns in just a moment.
President of a big company, leading the efforts of hundreds of people. But we're peeking far into the future. This top executive looks quite different today, much younger, like your own son, who may grow up to be a leader. And right now, your child has the important job of growing, building a strong, straight body. That means your child needs protein. Protein as Nabisco shredded wheat brings it to you. Protein even more effective than nature made it. So it has growth-building nourishment it didn't have before. Improved wheat protein. Nabisco shredded wheat is hearty nourishment in the golden toasted regular biscuits or in the crunchy new spoon-sized shredded wheat juniors. 2 delicious ways Nabisco brings you improved wheat protein. For a strong body and a bright future, serve your family Nabisco shredded wheat and Nabisco shredded wheat juniors with improved wheat protein.
Penny?
Oh, it's all right. All right. Let me look at you.
No.
You look fine.
I know how I look.
You didn't have a very good night, the doctor said.
I had a miserable night. I wanted to come home.
I didn't have a very good night either. I wanted you home with me. But I knew I had to wait. You both have to wait. I can't stay too long, darling. The doctor said just for a little while.
You're what I need, Penny.
I know, darling, but Dr. Casson
Look,
doesn't...
I'm just about fed up with him.
Oh, don't say that, sweetie.
I'm sorry. I just don't know how much longer I can hold out.
You can do anything you want to do.
Did you know that Dr. Damon was in to see me?
I didn't know about it until today, no.
Well, I don't want a psychiatrist. I won't have one, Penny.
Doctor, darling, just trust Dr. Cassson, please. Now, I'm not going to ask you to do this for me. I want you to...
There isn't anything in the world that I wouldn't do for you. You know that. But I'm all right now. I'm doing fine.
I know you are. That's why I was so anxious to see you.
How about your folks?
They feel just as I do.
And your mother?
Mom's a little worried. You know how she is.
Are you staying with them?
No, Jeff.
Now, I wanted to call you last night. They wouldn't let me put the call through. I thought maybe it was just as well maybe with your mother.
Oh, darling, I'm at home. I am going to be at our home until the doctor dismisses you.
Oh, Penny, will that ever happen?
Darling, I'm sure you're over the worst of it. You've just got to keep saying to yourself, each day, today will pass, and it's going to get easier and easier. I know it will. And then it won't be a problem anymore.
Yes, darling, you're right. You are right. Penny, maybe you better go now, huh, honey?
All right, Jeff. Darling, if tonight goes all right, if everything is all right, I'm sure the doctor will let me come to see you again tomorrow.
I'm all right, Penny. Now that I've seen you, I'll be fine. Honey, if I want to call you tonight, you'll be home, hmm?
Of course I'll be home. You have a good night.
I don't know how much longer I can stand this. I don't know.
This is me, Millicent. I'm 5, but my sister is beautiful, especially on telephones. It's Tom, darling, helloing from the airport, and I'll see you in 30 minutes. We instantly go wild and peek at our frizzle-frazzle hair ends. Everything depends on the ends. The vital beauty inch. When the end's dry, hair flies, and we get the wispies. See? Our vital beauty inch becomes absolutely revived with Suave. Suave's first name is Helene Curtis. Suave lotion is so light, so non-greasy, just a kiss. Silken very strand. Suave revives our vital beauty inch, so hair behaves shiny, gorgeous, all over. Your hair will be lovely with Suave. Helene Curtis Suave Lotion. Or, for extra dry hair, Suave Cream Concentrate.
As the World Turns has been brought to you today by Nabisco, bakers of the crackers, cookies, and cereals more people enjoy. They're the best you can buy when they're baked by Nabisco. Fashions from Susie Perrette. Portions of this program were pre-recorded. Join us again tomorrow for another half hour of drama on As the World Turns.
Lance Jackson, musician extraordinaire from Atlanta, Georgia, joining me again on TV Classics, as we've had him here for the entire program today because he does such a brilliant job with all of these soap opera themes. Lance, how long did it take you to master As the World Turns, if you remember?
It took me, I would say maybe a month.
Okay,
you know,
now
not as clean as Charlie Paul's version. That run, especially, you know, with the piano down. You know, I'm not as quick as he is, and so yeah, it took me a while. But again, when I sit down to a piece, until I learn it, you know, and satisfied that it's near perfect, I don't quit. So that's what I did with that one. Side note, on that show, on the theme for that show, I am friends with Rosemary Prince, who played Penny, because somebody showed her the video of me playing the original theme. So whoever showed it to her, she told them she had to meet me. They facilitated it. And we've actually visited a few times at her, you know, in New York. And we talk, I'd say maybe every 8 weeks. I just called her for her birthday, and she's 91, being super careful, but super sharp and just sassy. And she's a love and has become a friend of mine because she heard me play the theme of that show.
And you know, she, you know this, I know, but she became a professional singer as well. She recorded an album at one time that was TV's Penny, Rosemary Prince Sings. And she, of course, then went on. She was really the original star of All My Children. After she left As the World Turns, she was the original star of All My Children, but she chose not to stay with the soap. And she did dinner theater and many other things of that nature, and also was trying to do a nightclub career as a singer. But she was an amazing performer as Penny on As the World Turns, because there were so many people that it was said at the time that there were men who, if it was in the Central Time Zone and they were home for lunch at 12:30, that they might actually admit to joining in and watching with their wives so they could see Penny.
I fell in love with her on that show. So it was just, I don't know, serendipity that we met.
Well, you've had to have an opportunity, you've had the opportunity to do that like I've had with some of the game show personalities, because it's super to be able to build a relationship with someone that you've admired from that genre of television. But the one thing that I love is when you get to that middle portion of the As the World Turns theme, and then you do it's like the twinkling version, the bells that you played there in the middle of that, and it's just it's almost like I'm sitting there and watching the credits roll.
And what's interesting about that, on that particular organ, it had what we call a stop that would give you, and it's called a vibrahub on that organ. But Charlie Paul had a separate instrument called it was a Simone Celeste that played the bell sound. So he had 3 instruments that he used.
Well, that's terrific. And this was a show, as we said, that premiered in 1956 on April Fool's Day. And the theme stayed the same for 18 years until in 1974. They went to an orchestrate. I never forget the day that all of a sudden I happened to be home and I heard what sounded like this rich, lush orchestra playing the theme from As the World Turns. I mean, it was fantastic, but it just wasn't the same. But it was, as you mentioned, Lance, it was economics. Trying to get away from having to pay a studio musician to do what they did, and so it was just really a different day as so much of television evolved. But Lance, I saved what for me my favorite for last, and that is because of the other show that was one of the 2 first half-hour soap operas in 1956, and that is as they would say, the edge of night. And that was the first.
It isn't the cleanest as I can get, but it's close.
The what you have with this, The Edge of Night, was actually, it went to television with on April 1st, 1956. It went to television with the radio cast of Perry Mason. They knew they were going to primetime television with Perry Mason a year later, but they took the cast, and largely the format was the same as Perry Mason because you had an attorney named Mike Carr. That's how they changed it. And the same actor, John Larkin, who played Perry Mason on radio, he became Mike Carr on television. And a lot of the same actors moved to television. Initially, he was married to a character named Sarah Carr. And there's a story behind when that marriage ended, not by divorce, but how that was one that almost created turmoil for CBS at that point. But this show was one, as I mentioned, did not have a great deal of pure romance at the beginning of it. It was largely, for about the first 10 to 15 years, a mystery show. As it was called, in many instances, it was called a serialized melodrama. So we're going to take you back to an episode from 1963. Mike and this was no longer Mike, it was Mike and Nancy Carr, and all of the adventures in Monticello on The Edge of Night.
Now, brought to you by Tide. All over America, women have proved to themselves you can't beat Tide for the cleanest clothes. The Edge of Night.
What's this? You always tear clothes in half before you wash them?
No, but it's a good way to demonstrate Tide's cleaning power. Come see. We'll save 1/2 of each dirty garment, and we'll wash these other halves with Tide. Thank you. In the new AMC washer. AMC packs Tide in every automatic. A new AMC feature is cyclotron programming. Press one fabric selector button and everything from water temperature to rinsing time is controlled automatically. AMC has 9 spray rinses plus a deep overflow rinsing. Time for our Tide wash results.
Oh, boy, what a difference.
Yes, when a product gets clothes that were dirty as this, clean as this, it belongs in automatic washers.
Sure does. And you know 25 makers pack Tide in their automatic washers at the factory. Use Tide in your washer.
Yes?
This is Ruth, Mr. Moore.
Where are you?
I'm on my way. I'm calling you from a phone booth so you can speak freely if there's anything you want to say.
Are you all set?
I certainly am. I'm all dressed up just the way you told me. I couldn't look any more conspicuous unless I was carrying a bass drum. Got my suitcase.
And those knockout pills?
Sure. I wouldn't forget those. Those little pills are right in the bottom of my purse. Any change in the plan?
No. No, you just go over to the La Siesta Motel and register as Mr. and Mrs. Jack Lane.
Wouldn't it seem strange if I do that when there's no Mr. Lane on hand?
I've already taken care of that. I talked to the manager. I told him I was Jack Lane and that my wife would arrive shortly, but I would be delayed, and so you would register for us both.
You do think of everything, don't you?
Well, I try to, especially when there's so much at stake. There must be no slip-up, Ruth.
I'm on the ball, Mr. Moore. I'll not only enjoy blackmailing Mr. Lane, I have a private score to settle with him.
What time do you think Lane will be at his apartment?
I don't know. He'll probably eat dinner out with his wife away.
Well, you call him as soon as you're ready. Now, do you know what you're going to say to him that'll persuade him to come to the motel to meet you?
I'll think of something.
No, I'll think of something. Now, wait. You tell him that you have information regarding someone who's trying to steal the motor.
Mr. Moore, you are clever. I never would have thought of telling him the truth.
Now, when he joins you, you'll have to stall for a while until you get a chance to drop one or two of those tablets in his drink, so, tell him that you overheard one of the girls talking in the restroom at Grimsley's.
Okay. Anything else?
No, except for one word of caution. Don't forget that your name at the motel is Mrs. Jack Lane.
All right, Mr. Moore. If there's any trouble, I'll...
There must be no trouble. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
What's the use of fooling myself? My family knows they should brush their teeth after every meal, but I know they don't. They can always say,
But, Mommy, I didn't have a chance.
Look, how can I always brush?
You see, that's why we've switched to Gleam.
Gleam, the toothpaste for people who can't brush after every meal. Just one Gleam brushing destroys decay and odor-causing bacteria. You see, Gleam and only Gleam contains GL70 to fight decay and odor. Just watch this scientific comparison. Here are mouth bacteria before brushing. Now see how one Gleam brushing destroys most bacteria. Not only destroys decay bacteria, but also stops mouth odor all day for most people with just one morning brushing. Means a sweeter kiss. So if brushing after meals is your problem, use Gleam. It's for people who can't brush after every meal.
Come in, Willie. Come in. Michael. Well, now, who was it who called upon Ruth Hickam?
A woman.
A woman?
Yeah.
Oh. Why did you consider that to be so important that you called me up and said you had something hot for me?
I'll tell you, my friend. Mrs. Hickam.
Her mother?
Could be.
That's very interesting.
One of my men followed her, and she's moved over in the rough section over on the west side in one of those kind of broken down apartment houses.
Uh-huh.
Maybe from out of town, I don't know, but I think we ought to talk to this lady.
Why?
After all, who could tell us more about dear little Ruthie, I suppose, than her own mother, huh?
Willie, it has been reported to me that mothers are notoriously prejudiced in favor of their offspring.
No, not this one.
Why not?
Well, my man was outside the door of Ruthie's apartments, you know. These two little ladies were having a conversation and calling each other, I would call them, uncomplimentary names, screaming like a couple of alley cats.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah. Woman left, it was because our Ruthie said, get out, and practically threw her out the door, as a matter of fact.
Yes, I think maybe I would like to talk to this Mrs. Hickam.
What about supper, buddy?
Oh, I think that can wait.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Well, just as soon as I can find the boy. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Mrs. Jack Lane.
Oh, yeah. Excuse me. La Siesta Motel. I'll see. I'm sorry Miss Violet hasn't shown up yet. She's my assistant. She takes care of the switchboard. I'm afraid his room doesn't answer. You're welcome.
I'm Mrs. Jack Lane.
That's the way it goes sometimes. Yes. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, I'll have your bill ready for you. I'll send for your luggage just as soon as the boy comes back. Yes, sir. You know, that thing drives me crazy.
I'm Mrs. Jack Lane.
Oh, single or double?
Has my husband registered?
Oh, what's the name? I'll be right back. Yes? Well, I'm very sorry. Well, the boy hasn't come back yet. Yes, ma'am. I sent the boy out to put some luggage in a car, and he hasn't come back yet.
I was supposed to meet my husband here. Has he registered?
What's the name?
Lane. Jack Lane. I'm Mrs. Jack Lane.
No, I'm afraid there's nobody by that name here.
Dear, what am I going to do?
Well, if you'd like to wait for him, the cocktail lounge in there is more comfortable. You don't have to have a cocktail.
Is there a message for me?
What's the name?
Lane.
Lane. Oh, Lane. Wait a minute. Now, let's see now. Lane. Oh, Jack Lane.
Yes.
Yes, of course, I took it myself. It's right here. Yes, Mr. Lane phoned and said that he'd been delayed.
Oh, not again.
But that as soon as Mrs. Lane arrives to get the rooms, he reserved a suite.
Oh, how nice.
And to wait for him.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr.
Zuckerman. Harvey Zuckerman. I'm the manager.
Mr. Zuckerman.
Well, you can register.
Oh, my husband usually registers for us.
Well, just sign Mr. and Mrs. Jack Lane and fill out all the little spaces. Excuse me. Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, if the boy isn't back right away, I will bring the ice water myself. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Oh, now. Oh, your home is right here in Monticello, Mrs. Lane.
Yes, my husband's one of the younger executives with Grimsley Corporation.
Oh, is that so?
Yes, we're having our apartment redecorated, and you know what it's like living there with that kind of thing going on.
Oh, yes, indeed.
So we thought we'd get away from it all for just one night.
I don't blame you. I hope you will like it here at La Siesta, Mrs. Lane.
I'm sure I shall.
Well, now, your husband said that he wanted the very best we have, so I've reserved the, bridal suite.
That will be very nice.
Well, if you'll sit down and make yourself comfortable for just a small minute, I'll have the boy get your bags. And if he isn't back immediately, I'll take it up to your rooms myself.
Thank you so much, Mr. Zuckerman.
Not at all.
We'll continue with our story in just a moment.
When a dog comes home with dirty paws, his best friend is Mr. Clean, the all-time champ of all kinds of cleaning. Procter & Gamble's new all-purpose liquid cleaner. On wash day, soak dirty, grimy paw prints with Mr. Clean. They just disappear, 'cause he helps laundry suds do cleaner, fresher-smelling wash. Grimy paw prints on painted doors? No trouble at all for Mr. Clean himself. He cleans anything washable, faster and easier. This means I'm hungry. It also means dirty dirt. But Mr. Clean just wipes it away, nothing to it. Why, he'll even clean the dog himself. No wonder dogs love Mr. Clean.
Mr. Clean gets rid of dirt and grime and grease in just a minute. Mr. Clean will clean your whole house and everything that's in it. Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
Well? Mrs. Hakem?
Yeah.
May we come in, please?
What do you want?
Well, we'd like to talk to you about your daughter. May we come in?
Talk to me about who?
Ruth.
Oh, that one. She isn't my daughter. I wouldn't know her if she was. She's my stepdaughter, and she's, mean, selfish, ungrateful, no good.
Well, in that case, we do want to talk to you about your daughter.
The first half of The Edge of Night has been brought to you by Gleam Toothpaste. continue with our story immediately following station identification. The second portion of The Edge of Night is brought to you by Pillsbury's Instant Mashed Potatoes, Pillsbury Chocolate Fudge Cake, and Pillsbury Buttermilk Pancakes.
What do you want to know about Ruth?
Well, Mrs. Hakem, in our business, it often becomes necessary for us to obtain certain confidential information.
Oh, checking up on her credit, huh?
Yeah. Yes, that's, I guess you'd call it that, yeah.
Wouldn't you know? Living in a fancy apartment like that with all them pretty clothes, and she'd still be buying things on credit.
Well, it's done constantly, Mrs. Hakem.
Just like her old man. Debts, 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 all the time. Booze and debts. If you want to know what I think about Ruth, I'll tell you. I wouldn't trust her for a plug nickel.
Well, that's very interesting. Well, I received the impression then that you and your stepdaughter don't get along very well together.
See, the important thing here is that we've got to have an opinion that's not prejudiced or biased. And to be trustworthy, you know, judgment of her.
I ain't prejudiced and I ain't biased. I know what I'm talking about. Believe me, I know. Listen, if you trust little Ruthie, you deserve to get rooked.
Why do you say that, Mrs. Hakem? I mean, do you know of some specific instance in which she's shown herself to be untrustworthy?
You bet I do.
Well, I assure you that anything you might say here would be strictly confidential.
I don't care if it's confidential or not. I don't care if you tell her to her face what I say. She knows what I think about her. Listen, I went to see her today to give her a chance to show her gratitude for what I done for her, and you know what?
She wasn't grateful?
First words out of her. Get out. Get out. Get out or I'll throw you out, yeah. My own stepdaughter said that to me.
Oh, Mrs. Hakem, now, in all fairness to her, maybe she wasn't feeling well, huh?
You wouldn't try to defend her if you knew what I know.
Well, why don't you tell us, Mrs. Hakem?
All right. I will. Ruthie was 10 years old when I married her old man. 10 years old. She was an ugly little tow-headed brat, already run wild.
Well, she couldn't have been very wild at the age of 10, could she?
Oh, that one could. I tried to take her in hand, teach her how to be a lady. Yeah.
Where was this, Mrs. Hakem? This time, Monticello here?
No. Denver. I always lived in Denver. I only came here a couple days ago looking for Ruth because I needed some money to live on.
How long has it been since you've heard from her?
Oh, a long time. She ran away from home when she was 16.
Well, was it a good home?
It was the best I could make. My husband, her father, was no good. Drank, never worked steady.
And you took care of her, huh? That'd be about 6 years then.
Yeah, I tried to. I sent her to school. I kept after her, trying to make her learn something instead of running around wild, carousing at night. So I nagged her into going to secretary school. Paid for it myself, too, money I earned. Yeah. When she thought she knew enough to hold down a steady job, she left. Just left. Took the money out of my purse, all of it, cleaned me out. And no goodbye, no thank you.
Did you ever hear from her again?
No. I saw her 2-3 years later on the street in Denver, and she was with a guy, all dressed up pretty. Too pretty for her to have earned the money to buy them clothes with a typewriter. But I spoke to her anyway. I spoke to her and she pretended she didn't recognize me. Said to the man she was with, give the poor thing $1. Buy a cup of coffee. He handed me $1. Like a big shot, I threw it in her face and she laughed at me.
Mrs. Hagen, how did you learn that she was here in Monticello?
Oh, some girl she used to know in Denver saw her here. She was here visiting, and Ruth pretended that she didn't know her. Well, then a couple months ago, my husband died and drank himself to death. Didn't leave me anything, and I couldn't get steady work, so I thought I'd swallow my pride and come and look up Ruth, forget how much we hated each other. Maybe she'd stake me, help me find a job. Anything else you want to know?
No, I don't think so, Mrs. Hickam.
Listen, my best advice to you is don't trust little Ruth.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hagen.
Thank you, Mrs. Hagen.
Put me out.
Who is it?
The manager, Mrs. Lane. Harvey Zuckerman.
What is it, Mr. Zuckerman? Oh,
Flowers.
flowers?
Yes, these came just now, and I put them in a vase for you.
Oh, thank you very much.
There was a card. It was tied on the box, and I put them right there in the flower.
Oh.
Oh, from your husband.
Yes,
Well, how very nice.
I think so.
Yes, indeed. Well, looks like there's going to be a second honeymoon.
Yes, I guess in a way there is.
Well, I've got to get back to my switchboard. Excuse me.
Our story continues after this message.
A girl has to have a few secrets from her husband. Here's one of mine, new Pillsbury instant mashed potatoes. He doesn't dream that these are instant because they have all the fluff and flavor of home mashed. And I can swish into dinner unsteamed, serene.
Here at last is an instant potato with the fluff and flavor of home mashed. New Pillsbury instant mashed potatoes. You can't tell them from home mashed because Pillsbury has what it takes, flakes. Only flakes whip up into this natural fluffiness, natural fresh flavor. Pillsbury promises you homemade fluff and flavor in new Pillsbury instant mashed potatoes. Try them, and try new Pillsbury quick hash browns, steakhouse-style hash browns, easy to make at home.
Nothing says lovin' like something from the oven, and Pillsbury says it best.
Well, what do you think of our sweet Ruthie now?
Really? I'm of the opinion that if somebody offered Ruth Hickam an attractive sum of money, she wouldn't hesitate a fraction of a second to sell out Winston Grimsley, Dick Appleman, or Jack.
I guess the worst thing I can think of is a girl that'd sell out her own mother, even her stepmother.
Just keep a look on her, will you? This girl quits her job at Grimsley, says she's going to leave town, and then she doesn't. Why?
She leaves town, we'll know it.
I'm more interested in case she doesn't leave town, and I'm interested to know why. Put 2 men on this girl, Willie. If she talks to anybody at all, I don't care who it is, tail them, too.
Still want to pull the check?
Yes.
La Siesta Motel. Oh, yes, just a moment.
Hello?
Ruth, darling, this is Jack.
As if I didn't know, sweetheart.
Please forgive me, darling, for not being there when you arrived.
I miss you, dear. I'm lonely.
But not for long, precious.
How soon can you get here?
I'm not sure. I'm tied up with some business. It's very important. Only important business would keep me away.
Oh, I know. Oh, and darling, thank you for the flowers. They're lovely.
Well, I sent them so you wouldn't forget me.
Silly boy.
I'll be there as soon as I can. Don't be impatient.
I can hardly wait.
Bye now, my sweet.
Bye-bye, Jack.
We'll be back in just a moment. Look good? Want some? It's the new Pillsbury Deluxe Chocolate Fudge Cake, made from a new kind of mix. Pillsbury Deluxe Cake Mix, for cakes so rich, so moist, so quickly gone. The special way Pillsbury puts things together makes it easier for shortening and flavoring to spread richly, evenly all through the cake. A Pillsbury Deluxe cake keeps its fresh, moist taste longer than any mix cake ever did before. New Pillsbury Deluxe Chocolate Fudge Cake. So rich, so moist, so quickly gone. Get Pillsbury new Deluxe Chocolate Fudge Cake Mix in this new package. Just one of 7 deluxe flavors.
Nothing says lovin' like something from the oven, and Pillsbury says it best.
Watch this scene from tomorrow's story.
Jack? Oh, is he there? May I speak to him, please? Thank you. Jack, this is Ruth. I've got to see you right away. It's about the Appleman motor.
This is the newest Linkletter, my grandson, Mike. Imagine me a grandpa. You know, grandpas used to look like this. And they used to eat heavy, old-fashioned pancakes about as big as cartwheels, and then they went out to plow the back 40. Nowadays, Pillsbury gives you that same old-fashioned flavor in the lighter buttermilk pancakes folks want today. Yes, Pillsbury has created lighter buttermilks for today's modern taste. In Pillsbury Buttermilk Pancake Mix. Just look at them. Each and every Pillsbury Buttermilk pancake's a perfect fluff of flavor. Pour on the syrup, go to it. These are the lighter Pillsbury Buttermilks. Light to your fork and light to your taste. Pillsbury Buttermilk Pancake Mix, the leading buttermilk pancake mix by a country mile. The mix that makes those lighter buttermilks for today's modern taste. Get yourself a package,
Tune in again tomorrow for The Edge of Night, created by Irving Vendig. The Edge of Night has been brought to you by Pillsbury's Instant Mashed Potatoes, Pillsbury Chocolate Fudge Cake, and Pillsbury Buttermilk Pancakes. Pillsbury, who helps you add a loving touch to every meal. Pillsbury. This is Harry Kramer, inviting you to join us each weekday afternoon for The Edge of Night.
Lance, how popular was The Edge of Night in your house?
Oh, very popular, very popular. In fact, I'm gonna tell you a little short story. That show saved my life. because I think when I was maybe 6 or 7, I had done something I shouldn't have, right? And my mom was going to whip me. So I decided that I would escape a whipping by taking off out the door. Of course, my mother's in hot pursuit and caught me down the street in the neighbor's yard screaming, help, she's gonna kill me, she's gonna kill me. But she sweet talked me, Mama not gonna hurt you, I promise. Okay, we get back to the house. Of course, she locks the door, throws me on the couch, sits on me, and whips me. But it just so happened that the edge of night was on, right?
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, it was the day Andre Lazar, he had Louise Capice hemmed up and was going to harm her.
Yeah,
That
Andre
caught
Lazar.
my
Hey,
attention.
Lance, I remember Andre Lazar originally was a good guy character, and then we realized that he was not so good.
He was not so good. Yeah, but the day that episode aired, it caught Mama's attention, and she stopped whipping me. Otherwise, I think she'd have killed me. Because listen, I don't know what hurt worse, the licks Mama was giving me, or that my mama wasn't a little girl. My mama was a big lady. Can you imagine her sitting on me and spanking my tail?
You know, I probably had a few things like that in my childhood that I could go back to. Yeah, I remember that because that was not long after the storyline in which it was determined that Cookie Thomas, who had been married to Malcolm Thomas. Now, for those of you who go back a long way, you may remember these things. And he was stabbed to death by a woman named Eve Morris. And I got to tell you,
I saw it.
She used a pair of scissors to do that over and over and over again. And that was probably one of the most violent, and it was done live, one of those violent sequences I've ever seen on television anywhere. And I had nightmares about that because I was staying a couple of weeks with my grandparents at that time, and she never missed the edge of night. And when that was on, oh my goodness, I had horrible nightmares about that scene afterward. But fortunately, Cookie got off, and at the 11th hour, Eve Morris was arrested for the murder of Malcolm Thomas. And again, Mike Carr was our hero because he brought justice to life on the edge of night. I got to tell you, Lance, this has been that story about your mom, though. That is a hoot and a half. I want to thank you so much for taking your time to be with us this week, because this has added so much to a rare all soap night that we have had. But I want you to tell everybody about your YouTube page very briefly and what they can find when they go there.
Well, yeah, you'll find me on YouTube. I am Organ Player, and it's spelled ORGNPLYR. Or look for Lance Jackson, and that's me. You'll find me on the organ. Mostly, I'm director of music and organist for a church here in Atlanta, and about to take on the same position in Miami. So you'll find me playing some gospel, some R&B, some popular. I'd love to play.
I tell you, I believe they could put any piece of music in front of you and you would knock it out of the park. And that's, I really, when I first saw it, this was a couple of years ago, and I finally said, some point I got to get Lance on, and we're going to demonstrate some of his talents and weave that in with these soap operas. But I want to thank you again for all you do. I wish you a lot of good luck as you go to Miami. And we're going to do this again. We just have to. This is too much fun. But tonight, as we wind up, this is, I think, of all of the soaps all through the years, this is my all-time favorite. Lance Jackson at the organ playing the theme from The Edge of Night. And you can just imagine at the end of it, this is Harry Kramer inviting you to join us again on Monday for The Edge of Night. And so we're going to go off with that. And remember, we'll be back with you again.
You honor me by asking me. Thank you.
Well, you honored us by being part of this, and I'll tell all of you, we'll be back again tomorrow night with a brand new edition of TV Classics for our Sunday night edition. And until then, this is Steve Beverly saying, remember to keep watching the classics, because that was when television was fun.